سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحابته أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. رب زدني علما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. والوالدات يرضعن أولادهن حولين كاملين لمن أراد أن يتم الرضاعة والمولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك فإن أرادا فصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم إذا سلمتم ما آتيتم بالمعروف واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بما تعملون بصير. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. So we've discussed about the ahkam of the radha, breastfeeding, of suckling, and we'll just summarize that once again and complete that today, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَةَ. So the parents should agree, and it's the responsibility, in particular, as we mentioned, the responsibility of the mother to ensure that the children are given radha, or they're giving the breastfeeding and the milk, the breast milk of the mother. And I would like to highlight that this is extremely important. Not only is the right of the child, but that milk has nutrients and has, the benefits for the child. That if the child is prevented from receiving that, and these days, women tend to disdain from breastfeeding their children, and as a result of that, that will amount to a permanent, deficit and detriment to the growth of the children. So, our women should be very careful about that, and of course, the responsibility of the men to oversee that whole issue. And so it's also mentioned that the period of that breastfeeding period, hawlaini kamilaini liman arada an yutimma ar-radha'a. So that period is 2 years, to complete 2 years, that we mentioned, but also that is the pregnancy and its rearing and weaning for 30 months, so up to 2.5 years, according to Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. So 2 years or maximum 30 months is the period of radha, in which the injunctions that are connected to that in terms of the relationships and also in terms of the permissible time to continue the breastfeeding up to 2 years or perhaps maximum up to 2.5. Liman arada an yutimma radha, for those who want to complete that term. So suppose the total 2 years is not completed for whatever reason. Perhaps the woman doesn't is not capable, or for some reason it's feared that perhaps the child might have detriment. There might be situations like that. So there's no harm in that if that's ascertained for the benefit of the child, ensuring that there's not going to be a detriment to the child. And upon the mawlud lahu, the father, okay, so upon him is the sustenance and the basic necessities for the mother, according to the orphan. We explained about that's not a fixed amount. It is according to the time and the place and the status, etc. And if there's a dispute in that, then it goes to the Islamic court, and the judge will decide how much that would actually be. And nobody, this is the general principle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rule of Sharia, that no one is given a burden more than they can bear. And a mother is not going to be, has to suffer unnecessary detriment as a result of that child. And similarly, the father is also not going to receive detriment. So in either case, one has to see that relationship in equity, and the mother is not to be forced to feed the child if she can't, or if she's not able to. And The husband is not going to be forced to pay an amount above and beyond his means if there is a situation where he has to pay the wages for a wet nurse. وَعَلَى مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And also, in the case of the orphan child, so the inheritors have to look after the child just as the father used to, and where their responsibilities go upon him, that becomes incumbent upon the inheritors. So if they decide that they want to, as we mentioned earlier, they want to finish the period of suckling, of wet nursing, before the actual period, when they both come to an agreement, and again, the agreement has to be for the best interest of the child. So there's no harm in that, right? And if you would like to actually hire another wet nurse for whatever reason, the mother may not have milk, or maybe milk is not the beneficial for the child, some other woman's milk would be more beneficial, then no harm in that, and so that can be done. That can also be done by taking a wet nurse on wages. However, just as any transaction, interaction, monetarily and in terms of services rendered, it has to be paid bil ma'ruf. It has to be there has to be a fixed wage that should be agreed upon beforehand, and ensure that that wage is paid on time and as per the agreement. Wattaqullah, and again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always in His wonderful method of tarbiyah and encouraging us and motivating us towards righteousness. Wattaqullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us to observe taqwa, to obey His orders, abstain from His position, from His prohibitions, and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well informed, totally aware of everything that we do inwardly and outwardly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives tawfiq.